Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 91 of Teaching Tales, the podcast totally devoted to sharing stories from the world of education. As always, I am your host, Brent Coley, an elementary principal in beautiful Southern California. And joining me today, really excited about the conversation, Mike Earnshaw. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me, Brent. Just super stoked to be here.
Yeah, we had this on the calendar a while ago, and we had to reschedule, but I'm so glad that we're able to do this. A fellow EduMatch author.
Yeah.
So we were chatting about that before we hit the record button. So before we jump into the topic, let me pass the mic to you, the virtual mic to you. Introduce yourself. Who is Mike Earnshaw? Tell us about your family, where you are, and professionally what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks. So for those who don't know, I am Mike Earnshaw. I'm an elementary principal. I've been at my current building for 7 years. Before that, I was a middle school assistant principal for 2 in the same district. And then before that, I taught middle school English language arts for, 15 years. So when I got the job as an elementary principal, my whole career had been set, middle school. And I anticipated to kind of be 1 or 2 years as a stepping stone to get back to the middle school. But I fell in love with the elementary level, and I fell in love with the staff. I mean, I know it's cliche and everyone's like, oh, our staff's a big family. We come together. I mean, but it truly is where I'm at. I mean, we've got the turnover rate is extremely low. The people we've lost have either retired or they've left the profession for family reasons, or they've just kind of moved far away. So I like to think that I have something to do with that I don't got that revolving door where I know other principals in the summers are trying to staff their building, and I'm kind of worrying about other things like making schedules. So that's where I'm at. It's in Lansing, Illinois. Like you said, I'm a EduMatch author. My book's currently in the editing stages, so I'm hoping for a spring, summer, which would be a good time to do some book studies before we go back to the 21-22 school year. It kind of focuses on school culture and just things that we've done in our building, the stories we've done, the activities we've done to just kind of build that culture and that buy-in, and just do some out of the box type of stuff at faculty meetings and in classrooms. I host a podcast, co-host a podcast. It's Punk Rock Classrooms with Josh Buckley. He's a social studies teacher in Mesa, Arizona. We've been doing that for over a year. We met on a Twitter chat one night. I started blogging and he read one of my blogs. I kind of referenced it in an answer, trying to get some reads. And he went and read it right then and there during the chat. And I referenced an old punk rock band, and we just were brothers since then. We just started kind of talking, and we were like, we started having a lot of conversations about like our background of growing up, being in punk rock bands and skateboarding and just kind of being like those outsider kids and having this whole, punk rock was always built on like passion, unity, and DIY, the do-it-yourself mentality. And we drew all these parallels to education and punk rock. So we started the podcast where we talk a little bit about music, but it's not solely, if you're, not into that style of music, it's totally fine, because we're just trying to show you that you don't need everything that's fancy. You don't need the laser light show at the concert with 1,000 people and, $600 tickets. Like, you can get a pure experience of that same like $5 show in somebody's basement. So we host that blog. I started writing poetry again. So I've been sharing some poems on our website on punkrockclassrooms.com. And yeah, I'm super excited. You asked me about my family. Like, I don't think anyone has ever asked me about family. And, I'm a huge family man. And throughout this whole pandemic, I've come to I've always known, but it's really put it in perspective. I was on the phone with my mom this morning and talking to her about the same thing, that you realize what's important. Like, we've grown so much closer. I have a wife who, man, we've been married 13 years and 14 years, and we've been together though for over 20.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, we've been together since she was in high school. I'm 2 years older than her. So we've been together a long time. We got 2 kids. My son, Evan, who's in 6th grade, he's 12. And my daughter, Aubrey, is 9. She's in 3rd grade. And, they're just, I've learned when I leave work or when I leave my basement now, which has kind of become the office during all this,
Yeah.
Which they still think just because I'm home, they think I'm off. And I'm like, don't you see the computer and the people? I've learned, it's okay to put my phone down. It's okay not to have to check every notification. And if it's that important, someone will call me. But just being in the moment with them, so we've just, like many families, we've gotten together every night. We're watching a movie or we're playing games. Like the kids are older, so we're able to share some of those classic, like Adam Sandler movies, or so we've been going through an Adam Sandler phase right now lately. So just trying to do as much as I can with them. Every weekend I've been unplugging, not doing any work, not doing anything on social media, and just being in the moment with them. So
that's not even the topic for our episode today, but you've touched on them. We could unpack that for another 15 minutes right there. I mean, number one, I think that's a bright spot. That's a silver lining of the pandemic. In some of the other conversations, I've experienced the same type of thing. It's the opportunity we've been forced to stay in the house with our family. My daughter's 20 and she had to come home from college last year. So we weren't, earlier than she thought. So she's still there. She's still home. So we've gotten to experience more family time with not just her, but my son who's in high school. He's there. So definite has been an opportunity to prioritize what's really important. And I love how you said that, to put the phone down, to disconnect, to unplug, because right now with everything we're going through, it would be just so easy to 24/7. There's always something to do.
Right.
We're never going to get it all done. So, and boy, because this is the first time that we've connected online. Yeah. We kind of virtually met through EduMatch Publishing, but man, as you were giving your background, like eerily similar to mine. Like you said, okay, this is your 7th year at the elementary principal. This is my 8th. You said you were 2 years AP as a middle school AP. I was 2 years at a middle school AP. You said you taught 15 years before that. I taught 15 years before that. Yeah. The only difference is all of my teaching was at elementary, and I went up as an AP at the middle school level. And then I came back home, so to speak. Right. I learned so much at the middle school, but yeah, my heart, because my experience was there, and boy, I absolutely love it. And it's so cool. I just want to kudos to you. A low turnover absolutely is a testament to what you're doing at your school.
Thank you.
That is, I've heard so often people don't leave jobs, they leave people. Right. When they don't feel appreciated, when they don't feel valued, that's when they leave. And if you don't have people leaving, that means they're feeling appreciated, and that means they're feeling valued, which let me segue into kind of what we were going to talk about today, which is like teaching and leading outside the box. You're writing right now. Your book is focused on kind of like building that culture by doing things maybe a little differently. You've mentioned punk rock, you've mentioned skateboarding. So let me pass the virtual mic back to you and say, so what are some stories that you may be able to share of ways that you've got low turnover? How are you doing that? What kind of things are you doing at your school?
Well, yeah. So I kind of try to make this a brief 7-year summary. When I taught, when I was assistant principal, I always stayed true to who I was. And, I always believed, and I still believe, it's relationships, number one. It's not the content, the curriculum, the standards. Like, relationships are going to be number one for me, with my staff, with my students, with our families, the community. So, my first couple of years as a principal, like, that's what I did. Like, they say, like, their first year, you just need to be seen and see everything that's happening. So I was out in the halls and talking to people, getting to know who they were, getting to see how they kind of operate, how things, especially trying to figure out how is one teacher teaching every subject throughout the school day at elementary level, and have recess and have kids crying. So, taking it all in. And then, kind of after my first couple of the honeymoon phase, it's kind of the expectation, like, okay, well, now we're going to raise your test scores. Now we're going to do this and all that, stuff that I would not say is like, my passion. Like, I was an English teacher. Like, I admit all the time to my staff, like, I'm not a math guy. Like, I don't want to sit there and analyze data. Like, I got staff who like doing that. And because of the relationships we've built, like, they will gladly say, hey, look, give that to me. I'll break it down, and then I'll kind of explain it with you, and we'll work through it together. Like, but they like doing that. I don't. So, I got into that mindset where, okay, now I'm the principal, I need to be a stereotypical principal, and I was miserable. I could feel the culture, the vibe in our building was going down. Like, you could just tell people were not happy. They were burnt out. It's just, everyone was kind of going through the motions. And it came to the point where I was kind of like, I need to do something. Either I need to find a new career, because at this point, financially, with having a family, I couldn't go back to the classroom. Sure. I know we say it's not about the money, but in a way, like, if my kids were older, maybe I could do that. But at this point, like, we had already come to this, rely on my salary.
Sure.
So I was like, either I need to find a new career, or I need to find a way that I'm going to be able to stick this out another 20, 30 years. So it was ironic that the NASSP conference was in Chicago that year. And, I went, and my first day was pretty lackluster. I wasn't wowed by any of the sessions. And I went home that night and I started researching the next 2 days. Like, all right, who are some of these people? I wasn't active on Twitter at the time. Like, I knew it was there. We've all gone to the professional developments, like, get a Twitter account. So I had one I didn't do anything with. So I started, like, researching all these people, and I just came across some, like, names, like Andy Jacks. I came, like, I found this principals or dads principals group, and Adam Welcome, his name popped up, and then this guy Hamish Brewer. And so I was like, tattooed skateboarding principal. Okay, what is all this about? So I went to his session. I remember Todd Whitaker was the session before him in the same room, and I had known Todd Whitaker through Twitter. So it was kind of nice because I got my seat, because somebody else was like, you need to get there early because Hamish is going to fill that room, which he did. So I had my seat, and then seeing him, I'm like, here's this guy who loves his job. He's genuinely authentic, being himself. I was like, why am I trying to be somebody I'm not? Like, the staff saw through it.
Who doesn't look like you said earlier, the stereotypical principal.
Right. So I went back to school that fall, and I remember day one, we did our staff meeting. I came in, I was very hyped up. I'm always hyped up and energetic the first day, but I remember we were just doing some things. I had done some research that summer. I read some books. I started getting active on Twitter and finding all of these other school administrators who were not doing it the normal way, So I'm like, it's working for them. So I kind of came out, and we did some hands-on activities, icebreakers, you can call them, where people are up, they're moving, they're collaborating, people were laughing and smiling, and we get to this, where they're in their rooms working. And I remember I just started rolling through the halls on my skateboard, because I've skateboarded since I was 5 years old, and passing things out. And some of them are like, oh my God, you got to do this every day. The kids are going to love it. Like, and I even had, I had a staff member who I've known since I was the junior high. She was an employee, a staff member of the junior high. And then she went to the elementary school, and a year later I came to the same elementary school, and she stopped me, and a couple weeks into the school year, and I had my skateboard with me every day at this point. And she's like, Mike, I could see a difference in you. And I think just the fact that you're sharing a passion of yours that you love, and just like the freedom that you're out into the halls again in the classrooms and just like coasting through the halls. Like, she's like, it's a change in you, and it's a positive change. And then, it's kind of built off that. So, I don't even remember what your original question was at this point. I'm summarizing my 7 years here. So
no, but I think I think you hit it. I mean, as soon as you started, one of the first things you said was, when you first got there, it was build a relationship, listen, observe, do all of that. And then you said, and then I had to become the stereotypical principal. And as soon as you did that, you said I was miserable. Things started going down. The morale went down. You go to NASSP, you see,
like re-energized.
Yeah.
It brought back that fire, that passion of why I got into education. Because I've always believed, no matter what level or title or role you have, which, you got to enjoy what you're doing. And that's something my dad taught me when I was very young. He worked in the mills, in the steel mills. He always, he still works. He won't retire, and he could easily retire, but he still goes to this plant every day, and doing physical labor. He's almost 70 years old. And he's told me, I remember one summer day, I'll never forget it. And it was a summer afternoon. He was sitting at our patio table. His friend from work was over. They were still in their work clothes. You could tell they'd been sweating all day. They were drinking some cold adult beverages, and them both just looking at me saying, whatever you choose to do, make sure you enjoy going to work every day, because if you don't, you're gonna have a miserable life. And so that's why I went into education, like to make a difference, but to have fun. Like, as a student, I always had fun. Like, I enjoyed being in school. Like,
yeah,
I never say I go to work. I say, like, oh, I got to go to school.
I go to school. Yeah.
Like, I don't go to work. So, bringing that back. So, the past 4 years now, I think the conference was in 2017, 2018. That's what we've been doing. And, I'm not going to lie, the pandemic's been tough before we started recording. Our whole students are still virtual. We're coming up on a year that we haven't had students in our building. Our staff is working from home still right now. Since Thanksgiving, at the beginning of the school year, they were in the building. It was a little easier. We have about 50, 60 staff members. So we couldn't all get together for like a staff meeting. So it's kind of awkward doing like half here, then half there. My assistant principal in one room, me in the other. But at least we could see people face to face, because that's how I've always operated, face to face.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been a struggle for me this year. But prior to this, and this, shameless plug for the book when it comes out, but like all of these activities that I've done, like at staff meetings where we're having fun, we're getting up, like staff have told me, I can't believe that was 2 hours after school. Like, it flew by, when most staff members are sitting there with just that face, like, when will this be over? I want to go home.
Sure.
So everything I've done has always been, one, to have fun, but two, to get our task across, or get the improvement that we're looking for together. And then I want the teachers to be able to take what we've done and do it with their kids. Like, the book, my book, the Educulture Cookbook, is not going to be about just for principals or administrators of what you can do to improve your culture. Like, it's got a teacher can easily read and say, I can do this with my students, Absolutely.
So. Started with a skateboard.
That's all it was. Bringing in a passion of mine.
Bring in a passion of yours, and your staff is like, oh my gosh, you need to keep doing this. Kids are going to love this. And I love how you said, you're modeling, essentially. It's like, hey, I'm going to bring something that I'm passionate in. Let's bring it in something that you're passionate in. And you said, just have fun. And I think, shameless plug for my book too. The Power of Fun is one of the chapters, and
Yes.
it cannot be understated that if school is fun, kids will want to come more than they would if it's, I mean, nobody wants to go to something that's not fun.
Right.
I mean,
right.
As you were saying that, it's just like you said, modeling. I mean, what's today? We're recording on a Wednesday. 2 days ago, we had a staff meeting. And like you said, it's like, is there stuff that we need to get through? Are there housekeeping things and information a lot? Yes. We've all seen the memes that say, I survived another staff meeting that could have been an email. I mean, it's, and sometimes that's true. Other times there's some communication, some information that it just needs to be communicated live or face to face. But what we did this last time, just knowing, you know what, they're so stressed. They're working so hard. We opened the staff meeting with a Kahoot.
Nice.
I just did, and we've done that before, but it'd been a while since we've done that. So very first thing, we're already virtual, so everyone's at their computer. We did Kahoot, 14 questions of just random facts, opportunities to win Starbucks gift cards. The person who won, he's a Taco Bell fan, so Donnie, your Taco Bell gift card's on its way. But then we finished with Deal or No Deal. You're familiar with the show?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I used to love that. So we sandwiched it. We opened with something fun. We did our housekeeping, and we closed with something fun. Basically, have a video game. So we randomly did the wheel of names, and one of the teachers had an opportunity to play Deal or No Deal with everyone cheering her on. And I had a conversion chart. So she's not going to win $1 million, but it's like this number of dollars would equate to X, extra money for copies or extra money in your class account or just something like that. And then I was trying to model, hey, this is something maybe try. I used to do that with my students. Every Friday I had a weekly homophone challenge. On Mondays. You read the book. I talk about this in the book, where you'd put a weekly homophone riddle on the board and they could make guesses through the week. And at the end of the week, I would randomly pull one of the guesses. And if they had the answer right, and if they had completed all of their assignments for the week, they got to play Deal or No Deal. Same kind of thing. I just did it with the teachers. And then I sent the link out. I sent the conversion chart to the teacher saying, hey, maybe something you want to try with your kids. One of our fourth grade teachers emailed me the next day saying, I tried it with my kids, Brent. They loved it. And it's like, it warmed my heart because it was different. It was outside. You don't typically, staff meetings, when people think staff meetings, they don't think of playing Deal or No Deal.
No.
And please, in no way am I trying to say, my staff meetings are the best, because any of my teachers right now listening saying, I've been to some of your staff meetings, Brent, and they're not all rainbows and unicorns. So, and that's something that I'm always having to how can I make this more engaging? How can I think outside of the box to make a staff meeting more enjoyable? So
that's exactly, it's almost like, and I look at it for us as administrators, that's our time. That's our lesson planning. I don't just list my bullet points and say, here's what I'm going to do. Look okay, what do we need to get through? But how can I always think, how can I get them up out of their seats? Mm-hmm. How can I get them working with other people? Because teachers are very, they always stick to their team.
Yep.
Oh, we're the fifth grade team. Sure, we're going to sit at this table. We always sit at this table. Okay, they can come in that way. But how can I split them up? How can I get them with other people? Well, virtual meetings is awesome. You do the random teams now, or random breakout rooms. They're there. But, how can I get them outside? When we were in person, a lot of our activities, I would tell them, hey, make sure you've got, a sweatshirt or whatnot, because we're going to be outside. And we would go do, we did Struggle Island outside on the blacktop, which, for that one, all we did was we got in a circle. Everyone had submitted questions. Everyone had submitted something they're struggling with that they didn't have a solution to. And it was anonymous. And they put in an envelope. All week, they just would throw these cards in an envelope. So we went outside and we formed a huge circle. and I stood in the middle. I pulled the card out and I read the question. Now, if you were facing that same struggle, you were to take a step backwards, which then symbolizes, hey, you're out in the ocean, you're in the waters, you are drowning, you don't know what to do. If you didn't move, you're still in that, still where you were started. That means you're on the island. You have an answer. And then we shared out, okay, well, Brent, you're still standing on the island. What did you do in this situation, or what would you do?
Yeah.
And I thought it was a flop. I didn't get through every card, obviously, but I had staff come up to me later and say, you don't know how much that I appreciate that, because sometimes people, especially if you've been in the game for so long, you're afraid to admit you don't have an answer. And we got to get outside. We enjoyed like November, crisp November air. There's times we've gone to the art room and we just painted pumpkins of our favorite children's literature. And the whole point was just to have some fun at the end of a staff meeting. I had half the staff stay after the contractual time, after the meeting was done, because they were still painting and talking. And while we're in there, someone was like, we should put these on display in the library. I'm like, okay, let's do that. Hey, we should make a challenge for the kids. They should guess who painted which pumpkin.
Oh.
And then our library clerk, she put the book of each one next. I mean, and it's something, and the kids loved it. The next year, the kids were like, you guys aren't doing the pumpkins.
You're going to do it again?
Right. So, we did. But yeah, just trying to do those things, like, and I'm so glad you mentioned the games, because that's something I need to start doing, because I'm struggling with virtual meetings. I mean,
it's hard.
It's hard because I get what the teachers are saying, because when I see, all of a sudden I start to see screens going black and I just see a name or a picture, I'm like, are they there? What are they doing? Who are they texting?
Well, you read the room. I mean, when you're in person, you can read the room,
right?
And you see the nodded heads and stuff like that. And in a Zoom meeting, when quarter-sized pictures, or cameras off, because they've got toddlers at home crawling all over them, and we understand that it's hard. It's very hard. Definitely more difficult.
I like that game idea, though. I mean, some of the stuff we've done recently. So one of the ways, because I've felt disconnected from our staff. So myself and my assistant principal, 3 days a week, we hold. Teachers are done teaching at 2:30, but they're on the clock till 3:20. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, we started town halls, completely voluntary. It's just a recurring Zoom link. Anyone who wants to hop on can hop on. If I've got any new information of what's going on with the district and the return, I share that. If anyone has anything to share or positive shout out, we've been doing it now for so many weeks in a row. It's kind of, you kind of get there. You're like, okay, hey everybody, nothing's changed in the last 24 hours. But what's kind of been happening is it all started a couple weeks ago, and she's probably gonna hate me that I'm sharing this, but we're sitting there, and I'm like, someone's trying to get in the meeting, and it says their name is I Am Poop, and I go, I don't know, is this one of those things you hear about Zoom meetings getting hijacked?
Here we go.
So everyone who was in there with me is like, let them in. We need to see who it is. And all of a sudden, like the screen comes, but it's still black. They're connecting. And it's my assistant principal. And she's like, what? She had no clue that her daughter had changed her Zoom name when she, used the computer for a Girl Scout meeting or something. And so kind of ever since then, like, we've talked about the weirdest things we've ever eaten, or just like random bizarre stories. And I feel like it's a way, because right now more than ever, we need to help people we need to bring like laughter back. We need to bring fun back, to just decompress, and know that while a lot of us, if everyone's out of their comfort zone of what's going on, but like we said at the beginning, there's still those silver linings. There's still things to be grateful for. There's still things that hopefully we can carry with us when we return to quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
And we still just got to have fun with each other and let each other know that we're there for one another.
No, absolutely. And you said that's what I'm learning now. And my assistant principal, I mean, Cassie, you said it. We're having to step back sometimes and just, I love your town hall idea. I mean, like, of just, hey, come on in, and it doesn't have to be analyzing data conversations.
Right.
Right now, I think more than ever, maybe it's talking about your favorite foods, or it doesn't matter what it is, but right now, just that SEL, we talk about the importance with our students and making sure that they're okay. Our staff, we need to make sure our staff is okay. And if that means putting the data aside for a meeting, then that's what we need to do. I mean, last week we have weekly grade level meetings, where our collaboration meetings, where we talk about students and how are things going and what can we do to help out. And last week, I mean, kudos to Cassie, our AP. I mean, she was putting the agenda together, and it was just like, how you doing? When the teachers came in, it was just, you have a notebook? Yeah, close it up. You don't need it. How are you doing? And we just checked in. How you doing?
Yeah.
And Mike, I'll tell you, I mean, there were watery eyes. We had teachers just say, thank you. I just need, because even if it's for just this 30-minute meeting, thank you for letting me breathe. Thank you for letting me just kind of take a break, because we preach self-care and take care of yourself and make sure to turn. But are we giving, it was such a great reminder, are we giving them actual opportunities to do that? And yes, we still have a job to do. We can't put it aside we still have to meet the needs of our kids, but if we don't have anything left, we're not going to be any good for our kids. And that's whether you're a principal, assistant principal, or a classroom teacher. I think it's all the same thing. So
100%. I mean, that's the thing, everyone, especially the teachers, are working so much harder.
Yeah.
I had a teacher the other day who calls me, and internet at home's out. Comcast can't come out till later in the week to get it fixed. We had just gotten a ton of snow, so the building was closed.
Oh.
And they're in a parking lot, like on their phone, teaching from their phone, because they got, a signal from this parking lot. And, it shows show like, they want to be there and teach. And it's, we need to just kind of sometimes not always have these staff meetings where it's data. This is, especially at the end of a school day,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just coming back to that word stereotypical, which is kind of the backdrop, the theme for this. You use that word stereotypical, and it's just like, we don't always have to be stereotypical. Yes, we have to look at data. Yes, but it doesn't have to always be that. Well, principals don't ride skateboards through their hallways. Says who?
Right.
They can. You're a principal, and you ride skateboards through the hallways.
Yep.
Amos Brewer is a principal and rides skateboards through the hallways. I mean, who says you can't do that?
Right.
Who says teachers can't take their kids out and do something that teachers normally wouldn't do, in terms of whether it's having a 3-point contest or something? It doesn't matter what it is. Find your passion and do it. So,
I mean, and that's what's helped. And you said earlier how I'm modeling. I think the staff's seen me kind of bloom after that conference and bring the skateboard. And that's when I started blogging and sharing it. That's when I got really involved in Twitter and reaching out and expanding my PLN. It's okay to take a risk. Like, it's okay to be who you are and try something new. And if you fail, and then pick yourself back up, and we'll figure out how to either make it work, or maybe we don't use it. We move on to something else. So
But if you don't try anything new,
Right.
you're going to keep, if you hadn't tried anything new, I think you pretty much said, am I going to have to find another career? Am I going to have to, I couldn't have continued to do what I was doing because I just wasn't enjoying myself. And kids see it when they see you enjoying themselves. So if you're a classroom teacher, that would be my message is if you're enjoying yourself, kids will notice.
They're always watching.
They're always watching. If you're having fun, they're going to have fun. And as a site leader, as a district leader, whatever if I'm having fun and my staff is going to see that, wow, he's having fun. I mean, everybody wins.
Yes, 100%.
Everybody wins. So, well, Mike, I'm encouraged. So once again, I say this often at the end of episodes, like, it doesn't matter if anyone didn't listen to this because I was encouraged by talking.
That's my favorite part of your book. That's my favorite part of your book, Brent. I told you that earlier. You know, it's so true, and I've adopted that mentality. You know, if one person takes something from it, it's all that matters.
Amen.
Just encourage me. You got me excited for tomorrow.
There we go. Awesome. Well, likewise, that right back at you, my friend. So again, you dropped it at the top of the episode. Kind of, if anyone, you mentioned PLN. I mean, and I think what a testimony that you said, you went to a conference, you reached out to your PLN, that re-energized you and has made you a better educator. For anyone who wants to reach out to you, how can they do that? Give us your podcast information again. Talk about your book that's going to be coming out because I want people to connect with you, man, and learn from you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So both on Twitter and Instagram, my handle is at Mike R. Earnshaw. So Mike, middle name R, last name Earnshaw. Got my kids there.
That's
hey guys,
right.
Evan Aubrey, can you guys keep it down? So Mike R. Earnshaw for Instagram and Twitter. I also can be found with my co-host Josh Buckley at Punk Classrooms. Same thing on Twitter and Instagram. The website is punkrockclassrooms.com. You can find all of our podcast episodes there. We've got all the blogs that Josh and I have written. We're getting some guest bloggers, some past guests that have been on to get some blogs up. We've got now we've got the poetry tab because I've started sharing some of that. So we also got a merch tab. You can get some. If you're virtual, get some Punk Rock Classrooms gear before you head back to school. But then the book, like I said, I'm hoping for a late spring, early summer release date. You know, like we're in the editing stages right now. It's tentatively titled The Educulture Cookbook, Recipes to Positively Transform School and Classroom Culture. And like I said, it's a lot of if anyone, your listeners have read your book, it's kind of written in the same style. I'm just telling you stories. I'm not giving you data and research. I'm telling you stories that I've lived through, that our staff has lived through. That Struggle Island. I talk about, there's a chapter. I talk about the skateboard and bringing it back. I've got, flipping flapjacks. This activity we did where staff came together as teams and they had to flip a piece of butcher paper over without stepping off of it, and just the different approaches each team took and how they did it, and the beauty before it turned into less of a competition and more of an encouragement to get every team, regardless if you were first or last. Just stuff like the fun stuff we've done that has helped to transform our culture, but then also help us to work towards, inspiring our kids, which is why we're all there. So
there it is. Well, I can't wait because, like you said, stories, that's my passion, is telling stories. It's your passion, telling stories, and it's real. And that's, research is great.
Definitely,
that's not my book. That's not your book. You're telling stories. You're sharing what has worked, and you want to share that. So I look forward to that coming out. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. You got it, man. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, Mike. And for everyone listening, thank you for listening once again. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe. You can listen to the podcast on my website on the podcast page at brentcoley.com. Or again, you can subscribe Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find the podcast. And thank you again for listening. And until next time, have a good one.